One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. I'm Dave.
And I guess that leaves me the only option. Ha! I'm Marla.
Well, that's Dave Jr. Anyway, so just joking. I kid. Today, as usual, our show is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays in cooperation with NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason. You can actually donate. We need you to donate to help bringing you this great content every week by either going to NAMI San Fernando Valley's webpage and there's a donate page for Mental Health Mondays. The same thing exists on Loving Beyond Reason, so make sure you visit those. Give. We need you. Together we can actually win our battle against the stigma of mental illness. Our guest today is Erica Blumfield.
And I'm very excited to have Erica as our guest. It's such a informative and inspiring story. Go ahead, Dave.
Absolutely. Erica is an expert storyteller, and she teaches creative writing and reading to elementary children. As with most of us who are soldiers in the battle to erase the stigma of mental health, she has dealt with issues of her own. Ultimately, Erica's story is a story of triumph and continued success. When we return, our guest again is Erica Blumfield.
Cannot wait.
Move.
Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something.
Erica, we want to officially welcome you to Mental Health Mondays.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with y'all.
We are glad to have you, Erica. So you have one of those stories that we are actually familiar with some of the aspects of your story, but why don't you tell us how your story began and when you first realized that you were dealing with what we like to call here
A
on
brain difference.
Mental Health Mondays, a brain difference versus a sickness or anything else like that. But while all those things may be true, just to help kind of deal with some of that stigma that we were talking about, we like to refer to it as a brain difference. So when did you first realize that you had a brain difference?
Well, everything in my life had been going pretty okay. I was, I went to college and I lived in New York and had been working, but then, you guys, I can't see you.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh, it goes back and forth. So right now you're on a single shot because we're featuring you. There we are. We're always still here, but sometimes for the show, we kind of, when you're talking, we kind of make you the focus.
Oh, okay.
All good. We're still here.
All right. So yeah. Is there any way I can look at you or no? Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Tony, yeah, we just
Okay, okay. It's so weird looking at myself.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah, so and then when I was around 26, 27, I broke from reality and I started thinking that my life was like a 24-hour live stream. But for me, it was an unraveling.
Erica, can I just stop you for one quick second because I don't want this to slip away? Was there some type of incident for you? Was there a stress? Was there a relationship that didn't work? Was it something that you could now identify looking back as
a trigger?
Yeah, I think that at that time of my life, I was not getting enough sleep. I was in a rock band and I don't drink anymore. And at the time I was drinking and I didn't know I had bipolar. So I wasn't on any medication. And so my lifestyle, and I was in a stressful relationship with somebody with a lot of ups and downs. It's kind of like, so it was an unraveling.
Right.
Yeah. And then I couldn't keep a job because my behavior was so erratic. I'd have like long bouts of depression, or I'd really elevated. And so I didn't have money and I got evicted, and then it kind of spiraled from there.
Now, at this time, you said that you had gone to school, but you were living in New York. Were you in New York when you had this break?
Yes, I had moved to New York to go to college, and then I stayed there, and I was 26 and started to get really.
So now I would assume that experiencing homelessness in New York is markedly different than experiencing homelessness like someplace like Los Angeles
or Florida.
Or maybe I could be wrong.
Well, what happened was I flew out here when I was in a manic state, which honestly was a blessing.
Absolutely.
Because California has a lot of wonderful social services to help people. We need more, but I think compared to other places, there was a lot. So that was what helped me here, because I didn't have anyone.
And so now, when you say you didn't have anyone, are you saying that you had no when you came out here in sort of that elevated manic state, did you leave your family members behind in New York?
Right. So what happened is my family life was always difficult. I came from an abusive household, and I had no option. So I went home for a couple months, but they were still actively abusive, and their perception was that I was faking. I don't know.
So trauma.
So, yeah, it was traumatic. I had a cousin who helped me and let me stay with her. She bought me a ticket out to LA, and I stayed with a friend, but I was so sick, or not sick. I was really struggling. I was really not feeling well. And, I took too many pills and drank too much, and she had to take me to the hospital because I was saying I didn't want to live anymore. Right. And then I was in the hospital for 10 days, and then I had nowhere to go. So the social worker found a place for me to go for 30 days in the hope that they would maybe be able to find me transitional housing treatment center.
And so I actually want to get a little bit into, because, it's always miraculous when we can talk to a person who's been in, you now in retrospect, you recognize that you were in a whole nother alternate reality. And you are, in functioning now in what we call the consensus norm. So so we don't believe that there's a normal for you, but there is a collective group of people that consent that this is how we agree that this behavior is norm. So now you're in our consensus norm. But at that time, and this is something that I really want to touch on in a deeper way, that to kind of explain that you can't even get to help, to meds, to, when you're in that place, reasoning with you at that point from a consensus norm reality is something you can't even hear. Is that accurate?
That's exactly right. I mean, that's part of the battle, right? Is that when people do want to help, it's often really hard to help someone who's not in reality. They were telling me I wasn't famous, and I was like, "You're jealous of me. I'm the most famous person in the world. Madonna and Oprah are producing my reality show." I thought
the grandeur.
Grandeur. And I think that's one of the things why people slip through the cracks, or people aren't able to get help. One of the reasons, and why maybe family members get frustrated or can't help people more fully. But I think, so yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, and then as you came out here, you left New York. You came out here. You were able to be put into a sort of a temporary housing, and you said that was going to be up to 30 days. And we're about to have to go to a break.
So when we come back, we want to hear about your next steps toward healing. So when we come back from this break, we'll have more with Erica Blumfield. It's a great conversation.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
You may not realize it, but these words, often used to describe someone with a mental health condition, can be very harmful. In a country where 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health condition, it's time for all of us to step up and change the conversation. Just because someone's struggle isn't obvious on the outside doesn't mean they aren't hurting on the inside. We need to see the person, not the condition. Join with me, pledge to be stigma-free.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
All right, this month we're going to present the key findings of the Mental Health State of America, which is a report that mentalhealthamerica.gov puts out annually. Here's what the data shows.
Youth mental health is worsening. 9.7% of youth in the United States have severe major depression compared to 9.2% in last year's data. This rate was the highest among youth who identify as more than one race at 12.4%. Even before COVID-19, the prevalence of mental illness among adults was increasing. In 2017 through 2018, 90% of adults experienced a mental illness, and an increase of 1.5 million people over the last year's data.
Suicidal ideation among adults is increasing. The percentage of adults in the U.S. who are experiencing serious thoughts of suicide increased 0.15% from 2016 through 2017, that year, to the 2017-18 year. An additional 460,000 people from last year's data set. That's an increase of 460,000.
We're thankful to Mental Health America for this report, and we will continue to present the key findings throughout the month. It's our opinion that that collecting and understanding of up-to-date data and information about disparities faced by individuals with mental health problems is a tool for change.
This message is brought to you by Love and Beyond Reason and NAMI San Fernando Valley. I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
Okay, as we promised, we're back with Erica Blumfield. And right before we went to the break, Erica, you were beginning to tell us, I'll give a quick update, that you had experienced a break in New York, and in that state, you actually found yourself in a manic state, but coming to Los Angeles, where a friend actually was able to assist you in your next step of actually turning the corner to getting help for healing.
Yes, she took me to the emergency room at UCLA, and I was in the hospital for 10 days on the acute ward, and then the social worker was able to move me, and then I was at this place for 30 days, and then they found me a wonderful place through San Fernando Valley Mental Health Services, and it was called The Harbor, and it had about 12 patients.
Wow.
And consumers, and we had 24-hour care and social workers there to counsel us and help us learn how to take our medication and rebuild our life skills. I went 5 days a week to day treatment at a center where we had intensive group therapy and activities and ways to help us reintegrate into society.
So what was your first step of being able to, the breakthrough moment? Was it being put back on, was it the medication that gave you a portal to understand, wait a minute, there's two realities here, and this one gets me in a lot of trouble. So I need to figure out how to stay in line with this other, with the consensus reality.
Right. Well, the truth of the matter is I feel like it's a very long process to wellness, and it's not like you just take a pill and you're better.
Right.
It was a very long process to find the right combination of medications that kept me stable. And I was in a treatment center, for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so then what was the transition away from this center into once again kind of steering your own ship and living on your own.
Yeah, well, one of the amazing things about the program was I was given a Section 8 voucher, which really has kept me stable over the years. I believe that these programs that are set up, like maybe worst case scenario, someone starts at the hospital to like maybe whatever, worst case scenario, hospital into a care facility. And then afterwards, not just like, okay, go ahead, figure it out, we did it. But so the Section 8 was a real lifeline for me. When I work full time, I pay full price. If I'm maybe need to take a little break and work part time, my rent fluctuates. So that's been very helpful. It was difficult, to reacclimate. I had a lot of shame and fear, and I had damaged friendships, and I was isolated, and I didn't have family support. And I had a wonderful psychiatrist, which was really helpful. And he treated me for 16 years. I mean,
wow.
It was miraculous. It really was a miracle. He was on my treating team at UCLA. And then just crazily enough, he was the psychiatrist at the Harbor.
Oh, wow. That was just a coincidence. A blessed coincidence.
An orchestrated blessing.
Absolutely.
Well, and then I was like, it's part of the reality show. No, but then
he's part of the cast. No.
I'm glad that you brought up the titration process of making sure, because that's something that we have to remind people of. It's like you said, it's not just taking a quick fix, take a pill, and suddenly you're better. It's a whole process, learning to accept a new reality, really, that you're living with this brain difference. And kudos to you for staying on course consistently, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. I want to get to the point where you actually came in contact. Oh, Marla?
No, I was going to say also just adding, and for you sharing the time expectation is also huge. That to be able to share the length of time that it actually takes to go through the combination of things and time to heal.
Yeah, we speak. Sometimes it could seem like we're just kind of glossing over the fact that there is always hope, because there's always hope. There's always a path to a better life, depending on what brain difference that you're dealing with. It's not always instantaneous.
It's never
we want you guys to understand that, and it usually requires a discipline to stick with the program. So let's turn the story a little bit, Erica, to how you came in contact with NAMI for the first time.
Okay, so one of the things was once I was living on my own again in Section 8, I was very isolated, and so it was recommended that I get in touch with NAMI, and they had a class starting, a class on mindfulness and a group environment where we'd share and also do exercises to help manage our anxiety and fears and, what we were feeling. And it was so helpful because I made friends there, frankly. I mean,
absolutely.
Mindfulness is always great. We love it. Yoga, breathe, great.
Yes.
But I was so lonely, and I felt so outside of. I felt like I was always going to just be the crazy person, and everyone was just going to think that of me. And I met like a couple nice women, and we became really close friends. One of them kind of went off and does her own thing. Another one, she and I are super close. Like as soon as I found out I was coming on your show, I called her, and my goodness, it's been like 17 years. So.
Wow, you gained a buddy when you found NAMI. That's awesome. A lot of people, we want to remind you of that as well. NAMI has a lot of services that are there for you. Classes. They're peer-to-peer classes, they're family support classes, they're all kind of support classes. There are also ways that you can actually donate your time and services once that you've experienced these classes that are so helpful. It was helpful to us as our family. It was helpful to Erica as well. We're going to take another break, but Erica, when we come back, we want to really dig into your really emphasis, and I appreciate your emphasis on representing the everyday person's story when it comes to mental health. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, the fun music lets you know it is
poll time.
Poll time.
My neck hurts too bad to dance today. Sorry. So I have to do
Okay,
like this.
that was like a little a muted dance, sort of an inside.
I'll dance like this.
It's like how guys dance when they're in the club. They just kind of stay in here like, oh, yeah, I'm getting it. Anyway, so Marla, what was the poll question for last week?
Last week we asked, what percentage of adults in the United States experience a serious mental illness in a given year? The options were A, 4%, B, 10%, or C, 16%. Erica, what do you think? I'm going to ask the question again.
Yeah.
What percentage of adults in the United States experience a serious mental illness in a given year? 4%, 10%, or 16%? Just take a guess.
I think it's 16. I think it's 10 or 16, but I think 16 if everyone felt it was safe to say so.
So we hate to say that it's sort of a trick question because the separation is in the word serious mental illness. So a lot more people experience depression, so to speak, but it's really more like schizophrenia or other things like that, or multiple personality disorder,
bipolar,
that are considered serious. So that number, fortunately, is a lot lower, and that's 4%. The poll question for next week is, what is the most difficult mental illness to treat? Your options are A, depression, B, ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or C, borderline personality disorder, or BPD. While we know the answer, we invite you guys to visit our social medias, sites, wherever you come across them. The poll question will be there.
Your voice needs to be heard, and we want to hear it. And how do you make that happen? Vote.
Absolutely. Stop by NAMI San Fernando Valley's website or Love and Beyond Reason website also, and donate to Mental Health Mondays. We need your help to continue to bring you this great information. We'll be right back. All right, Erica, we are back. And as promised, first of all, I want to give you just a lot of credit and to just really sing your praises for just a few seconds here, because you touched on the fact that part of dealing with the stigma of having a brain difference is the isolation that you feel. And a lot of times that's not always from the people around you. Sometimes you can just feel like, man, I don't fit in like everybody else. And over time, you start to isolate yourself. There are times when you can come across people who don't quite understand brain differences, and they might mistreat you, or that stigma does exist there as well. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because it kind of leads into how you really realized that a lot of people fall through the cracks because they don't have that sort of hookup, because maybe they might be famous, maybe they might have a decent amount of money. Because what we found a lot of time dealing with a brain difference is to treat it properly without insurances, without some of these great programs that you were able to take advantage of. It costs a lot of money. So people that have means sort of are able to deal with brain differences in a different way than what we would say, as you say, the everyday person. Speak to that everyday person struggle.
Right. Well, absolutely. Mental health services are not accessible, even if you have health insurance. They are horrible. And our society needs to stop that and realize that it should be covered, and that families are struggling, and people who want to help their children or their sister or their brother, grown up, whatever, can't. They can't.
Yeah.
And I find that there's this, I mean, you have to and this is, so you have to just be able to pay out of pocket. And so I love that, for instance, celebrities or influencers who have a platform come out about having mental difference and struggles. But I'm not that person.
Right.
And maybe one day I will be a famous person. I don't know. But right now, and for 45 years, I haven't. And I feel like for me, getting to a point where I finally felt safe enough and comfortable enough, and my meds were right enough that I wasn't I was so depressed, but I could finally get out of bed at least. So like volunteer at an organization where I tutored children, that was like a huge accomplishment for me, and it turned my life around. And I once had someone say to me, because I'm a writer and I'm a storyteller, and they said to me, well, the problem with your stories are like you haven't done anything like super great, like you don't run a nonprofit, you're not a CEO, you didn't become a brain surgeon. And I was like, well, but okay,
but I'm a good person too. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think, also, I remember once I was passing someone who was sick and homeless and talking to themselves. And I said to the person, like, man, like, this just like, when is this going to stop? Like, when? And the person said to me, that person's a waste of a life. They're never gonna.
Wow, the person that you were speaking with referred to the homeless person that was dealing with an issue, said that person is a waste of a life?
Yeah, they're never coming back.
Wow.
Right.
So I feel like I want to say that too. People are reachable, but we have to believe that they are.
And I think we also have to continue these types of conversations, because the situation we were thrown into with our son, it forced an education, and that education was an understanding to a portal. And you said something very important at the beginning of this segment that I caught, that I want to reiterate. You have no idea until you're in the situation that the system really only guides you to an option of provide for yourself, you or them. So even our foundation being Loving Beyond Reason, that's why it's named what it is, because we recognize quickly that what we were doing was loving beyond what most people consider to be reasonable. I had people in my family that would say, there's nothing else you can do for him. Just let him go to the street. And we just, it was not an option. So for us, whatever we have to do. And so I get it. And so when you say that, that hits home for us, because our mission together, all of our voices can continue to facilitate the education that brings the understanding to have the opportunity to get through to every soul has a value.
Absolutely. And I just love that you were there for your son. I mean, that's wonderful. And I think you're right. You do is kind of have to love in a deeper way. And I don't believe in tough love with mental illness. It's not somebody's fault.
Right.
You don't just pick them out and yell at them. You don't yell at somebody who maybe has one leg. Run faster.
Right. Exactly. Why the hell didn't you win that race? What do you mean?
And I think, you bring up another good point, and that point is, homelessness is usually looked at from a have or have not perspective, and it's really a mental health issue 90% to even 99% of the time, most of the time, like Marla said. And so we need to start addressing it in that manner. Man, the conversation has been amazing. You're an amazing person. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Erica Blumfield.
Bad.
What are you doing?
Hurry. Worthless.
Don't trust them. They'll hurt you. You're worthless.
It's pointless.
When the pain of schizophrenia meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who is struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
It's raw, real, and unfiltered.
Okay, we're back with the great and amazing Erica Blumfield, who has been kind enough and gracious enough to share her amazing story with us from as she's learned to deal with her brain difference, as we like to say on this show. Erica, you were telling us about how you advocate for the everyday person's story, and you also shared earlier before the show that you decided to look at your mental health, the brain difference or the mental illness, in a different way. You changed the perspective And you, instead of looking at it as something that was a burden, you chose to look at it as a gift. Explain that.
I spent so many years being so sad and beating myself up and feeling like I was never going to accomplish anything. And I said, you know what? That's a lot of energy. What if I switched it? And realized that if I just started saying you can and you are and you're a survivor, then maybe I could make some difference. I feel like I have my priorities in a way that I think I may not have. Like, I want to survive, I want to live, I want to thrive, I want to share my experience to help other people feel like that's a possibility. And I don't want to lie or hide. I still struggle. It's never over. It will be something that I manage for the rest of my life. But I feel like I feel like I've become a very empathetic person, and I've been able to let go of a lot of, I don't feel disappointed. I feel very grateful for every single thing that I have.
Awesome.
Well, that thought is a great thought to end on today. We really appreciate you, your blessing. Thank you so much. I put this on because we part of what we do as well. This is our mental health. This is our Loving Beyond Reason.
But let them see the sign, because right now we just see your mouth. That's a lovely.
It says Loving Beyond Reason, and so they open up. So you can always support mental health as well by going to Loving Beyond Reason and ordering your own custom mask. My mom sews each one. So just this nothing but love that we have going on here. Anything and everything we can do to continue the conversation, erase the stigma, and break the silence. Thank you for helping us with that today,
Absolutely.
Erica. And we hope to see you again right back here on Mental Health Mondays, and we'll keep up with you.
All right. Take care. Stay well.
Thank you. You as well.
Bye,
God
Erica.
bless you.
Bye-bye. God bless you.
See you guys next week.
How it be the sunlight.